I'm not the house of cards that falls down easily. I'm strong enough to handle what you throw at me.
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I'm your host, Kristin Sunanta Walker. Just what are we going to discuss? The intimacy that is mental health. Let's continue to make it as comfortable as discussing brain health or heart health. This show has been on the air for several years and we have amazing co-hosts. And then we created a network of podcasters on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com, a place where every possible facet of mental well-being can be talked about openly. My show, after several hundred interviews, the format is this: intimate, deep, funny, touching, sometimes uncomfortable, but always vulnerable conversations with interesting people. The goal is to have you, our listening family, many of you who have become my good friends, feel as though you are listening in on private conversations. Thank you for tuning in and becoming part of this amazing journey with me, and now with our network of podcasters. Just knowing this podcast might be helping any of you realize you are not alone on this journey called being a human being makes doing this podcast worth every second.
After all we promised, we'd be cordial.
Hello, everyone. Kristin here. We are doing the Healing Room show, and we have the wonderful and amazing Martha Juchnowski with us. Hi, Martha.
Hi, Kristin. How are you?
I'm okay. It's a long weekend. We were just talking about a lack of sleep because I've got a new puppy. And so I'm sleeping in 2-hour shifts to make sure that we have fewer accidents on the carpet. So I'm a little tired.
You know, it's really interesting because I look at having a puppy as being almost equivalent to having a newborn baby because they pee on everything.
Yes, but puppies don't generally wear a diaper.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Well, we'll prop your eyelids open if you need it.
I just thought, why couldn't I get a diaper? There are doggy diapers. I could actually do that. Why not?
Well, I think that's something that, and you are a fantastic entrepreneur. I think you should look into that. You probably make $1 billion.
They exist because I know we had doggy diapers for my little Shiba Inu, but that was really more for when they go in heat, a female dog. But anyway, I'm just sitting here thinking, why couldn't I put my puppy in diapers? We do it with human children. And then you take it off when you take them out. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about this because I do need my sleep. And this show that we're doing is about people who do a lot for others, people that are in the healing arts or healing profession, and what happens when you, as the person that's helping facilitate healing for others, what happens when you need healing, and kind of, how good are we at that? And all of what that entails. So I'm glad that you wanted to talk about this today, because it's not something that, we're usually, I'm not putting myself in the same category as you, but when you do a lot for other people, you do have to know how to take care of yourself. Otherwise you can only go on your own gas for so long before it then, you're running on empty and you're still trying to do a lot for other people. Yeah. And that leads to not doing well at it anymore.
Well, before we go any further, let me just address something that you just said. You are a healer. And I think that there are many, many people out there who are healers, but because they're not doing Reiki or quantum touch or one of the other modalities, they don't feel as though they're healers. And I want to lay that myth to rest. Because let me promise you something, the cashier behind the counter at Walmart can be as big a healer as anybody else. And I met a wonderful woman who was checking me out at Walmart, and she got me on a day when I was feeling very emotionally vulnerable. And that gal just sent me out that door feeling so much better. And I'm telling you, she's a healer. You're a healer. There are people listening to this program who are healers. Just because I do it exclusively for a living, this is how I make my living, does not make me any more special than anyone else. And I want people to understand that, really understand that, you know, that you can go throughout your day and give somebody a smile, and that can be the difference between despair and hope in the person you smile at. I've seen it happen. So we all are healers. Some of us just do it more purposefully than others. I do this on an almost daily basis, and I earn my living doing it. And you know, I study it. I study all of the modalities, and I work on my own inner stuff. So let's just clear that up right now, my friend. You are a profound healer, and don't let anybody tell you any different, because they'll have to talk to me.
There'd be a few people that would disagree with that, but that's fine.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
That's funny.
But you know, another thing that I want people to understand also is that, you know, healers, people who call themselves healers, and I don't like calling myself a healer. I like what you said, healing facilitator. You know, we are human beings, and we are on our own spiritual path. We are on our own path of evolution. And just like how sometimes your path can be very difficult and very trying, so can ours. Our lives are, you know, not always easy, because we have our own stuff to deal with. And I want to talk about that for a few minutes, because I want to burst a bubble that maybe people have. You know, we look up to so many spiritual teachers and people who call themselves healers. You know, we look at them and we go, oh, that's what I aspire to be. You know, I want to be like this one or that one, and please teach me how to be like you. Well, I would like for people to stop that, because while these people are, you know, really profoundly adding healing to the world by teaching what they've learned, they're no different from you or me. It's just that we see them in their official role. You know, call it at the end of the day, and I'd be willing to bet you that they go back to their room and go, oh my God, I can't believe some of those people today. Oh, yeah. And they're having the same thoughts as you and I do. They just deal with them differently. And, you know, my own particular brand of, the way I do my work is this: you know, you're having a human experience. Let's experience the human experience, and not try to run away from the pain, not try to run away from the problem. And I think that is important, because there's something very powerful in that experience that can be learned.
Right.
And, you know, as you may or may not know, you know, I lost my son a year ago, and it was a very difficult and trying situation. And I credit my beliefs for, you know, getting me through it the way I got through it. And I thought, okay, I'm doing all right now. You know, the grief and the sadness was really, really hard. And, you know, I went back to work, and I, you know, started trying to live my life and just looking forward all the time. But what I didn't realize was that I was not dealing with my grief. And last week, my husband and I went to, we had our son cremated, and I didn't want to just put him anywhere. I wanted a special place, and we found a place in Western North Carolina where we live that is a memorial sanctuary, and it's all natural and it's beautiful and incredible. And I had a very, very profound experience with a spirit while I was there, but that's another story. And, you know, it's so interesting because just selecting a spot to bury my son's remains sent me into a tailspin that I have never experienced prior to this. And I was shocked how it made me feel. And I felt depressed. I felt very full of anxiety. And then here comes all of the, self-blaming. Well, you shouldn't feel this way. You know where your son is. Everything's cool. He's good. You just talk to him. Everything's fine. And I started berating myself. And, you know, how can you advise people on spiritual matters when you're feeling so ... And I spent several days doing that. And, you know, and I texted you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, I'm falling off the planet, Kristin. And, you know, if you have a little tether, maybe pull me back in a little bit. And you did. But it was such an education, because I thought, wow, everything that I learned, everything that I believe, everything that I know, everything that I've given to my clients, where is it for me? And I couldn't find it.
Right.
And you know, now I am on my way back. I understand what was happening, and I'm, you know, in a healing mode, and I'm doing okay. And I will, approach this crisis, I guess, a little bit differently. There's something for me to learn here, and I'm looking forward to learning it. And one of the things that I've learned, two things. Number one is, for everybody out there, please don't put anybody on a pedestal, because it's just not right. You know, you are a magnificent, immortal being in a body. Look for your own wonder. You know, let's uncover who you are instead of trying to be like someone else. That's their shine. Let's find your shine.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. We do it a lot. Obviously, we do it with celebrities, and we do it with people.
Yeah.
Not everybody does that, but then, you know, people do it when it comes to, you know, how many letters you have after your name, or how much money you have, or whatever. And it, you know, and I'm not any different. I have done, you know, that stuff too.
Sure.
And I don't know if it's an age thing or what it is, but at some point, something happens when you have done that, where you stop seeing people as one-dimensional beings. Because when they're one-dimensional, it's easy to project stuff onto them. They're just a flat screen, and you project all kinds of nonsense onto them, some of it true, some of it not. But there, you don't actually see a whole person. And I think the older that I get, the more I'm, you know, see a whole person, and all that, all the accoutrements of their life don't mean anything other than, oh, that's interesting. I don't project something onto them of how they should be, or that they're a nice person because they have this or that. I've had too many people have all that stuff that are absolutely horrid.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
I've had too many people who don't have any of that stuff who are incredible, and vice versa. So maybe it's an age thing that makes you start to not do that anymore, or as you accomplish your own stuff. I don't know what it is, but you know, I don't tend to do that as much as I used to.
Well, I think if you have any ability to be self-reflective, when you get to a certain point in your life and you can see that trying to emulate someone else isn't working, then you're going to go, okay, wait a minute, what's not working here? And then you'll start examining other ways of navigating through your world. But I think part of the problem is that we don't teach our children that they, in and of themselves, are everything they need to be already.
Oh yeah.
Let's just encourage you to be you.
Right.
And teach you that what you are and who you are is absolutely fine, perfect, and enough.
Right.
And let's learn how to uncover your gifts. And we don't teach that to our children.
I know.
We sit them in front of a television all day, and even adults, where everything on television, if you really look at it, is designed to tell you how many faults you have.
Right, and who you should be.
That's right. And I mean, I saw a commercial. I almost threw a book at the TV. I'm not kidding. It was a commercial for the solution that will make the whites of your eyes whiter. And I thought, are you kidding me with this?
What?
I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. It's an eye drop.
Oh my God.
And it's a young girl, as the model, and her eyes looked all right to me. But the whole thing was, put these drops in your eyes, and the whites of your eyes will be so much whiter, and therefore you will be more perfect.
And this wasn't hide the fact that you've been smoking marijuana kind of an eye drop thing. It was purely about beauty. Oh, that is disturbing. Wow. That's almost as bad as when I started hearing about people bleaching their anus. I mean, seriously. That is a real thing.
That one I haven't heard.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, you do that. You go to a salon and someone bleaches it for you.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I hope they get paid well.
And waxes it. In case you have a hairy arse.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why? But you see, this is so endemic in our culture that, if the whites of our eyeballs aren't white enough, then that means that we are inherently faulty. People are telling us every day in word and deed that we are faulty, not just wrong, but faulty. And when okay, my lips aren't poofy enough, they have to look like two inner tubes that are blown up, so I better go get that done, because really my lips are just terrible, and that makes me faulty.
It's such a thing with age too, especially for women, where if you have extra skin, if you sag, if your neck gets saggy, and then weight is another thing. And it's so bizarre because I'll sit with my friends that are in their, early 20s, they're half my age. And I remember doing this too. So I'm not putting them down in any way. It's our culture, and it's what our culture teaches our mothers, how to behave, so that we pick this stuff up even worse at home. But, they were all sitting and talking about fatness and people that have a problem with weight and why they're overweight. None of them have ever struggled with weight in their lives. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I, am not that size that they are anymore. And I didn't get offended, but I thought, oh my God, I used to have these conversations in front of other people and in front of other people who were heavier, and how uncomfortable that must have been, for that person, because you're not really thinking about that when you're that age. Right. You're, right. It's just bizarre, but all that stuff to do, aging and everything, as if you should feel bad. And I do this. I will apologize for my appearance. And I'm like, why do I do who effing cares? I mean,
right.
Honestly.
Well, because there's a commercial on TV that's telling you the white of your eyes are defective.
Yeah, exactly. And
why you're doing,
and your butt is too stained from all the years of going to the bathroom, I guess.
honestly, this is where we've arrived to. It's terrifying to me.
Yeah.
And, so we're swimming in this cultural soup of, telling you that you are basically, the essence of you is defective. So you look for ideals to, live up to. If you're a spiritually inclined person, you may go after one of the big authors out there, or, you may admire some speaker or whatever. If you are more superficially inclined, you will go after pop culture icons and try to model their behavior and looks and what have you.
Right.
And this is why I'm saying, let's stop for a minute here, because let me promise you something, that when you are going through a dark night of your soul, and you're all going to go through it, I don't know anybody who's not, none of that is going to matter, because when you are experiencing that dark night of the soul, it's you and you alone standing in the middle of a dark room going, what is going on? And there is nobody in that room besides you. And if you don't have some kind of good foundation, you're going to be running into the walls and really suffering. So let's find out who you are. Let's find out, let's look for your beauty and your wisdom and your inherent perfection that may not be, being displayed in your day-to-day world,
Right.
but it's there. So
Right.
let's find that.
And you may not see it when you look in the mirror because you've been trained to not see what naturally happens, to your body as you get older. We're trained to see that as ugly. We're not trained to see that as a beautiful thing. And I hope there are some cultures left. I really do. I don't know where they are, but I really hope there are some left who haven't been touched by our, Western society and what, television and internet access and smartphones and all that have done, where, they still see and respect their elders and see the aging process as something beautiful, not to erase with plastic surgery,
Exactly. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, when you set out on the journey of self-discovery and learning who you are and actually remembering who you are, you're going to come up against all of these things. It's like playing a game of whack-a-mole. You remember whack-a-mole at the fair?
Yep.
It's like a game of whack-a-mole. Oh, here's this thing, I got to fix that, and it disappears. And it can be very frustrating, but keep going, you're doing okay. And, so when my son died, there was nobody I could get mad at, because I knew that this was part of his plan, and, my plan is a spirit and a body. I knew we agreed to this. So who am I going to get mad at, right? But there's all of these feelings of anger because my baby was gone. And I had nowhere to put that. So I shoved it inside of myself, right? And the way I dealt with that was to go into guilt mode. And I spent a lot of time, and I tell you, a lot of time, looking back on my son's life and how I was as a mother, and every little thing that I could find that I did wrong to possibly contribute to his demise, I pegged it. And I'll tell you, I went back to pregnancy. What did I do when I was pregnant that might have,
Wow.
And so, all of that energy inside of me, trying to deal with the loss of my child, not just as a mother and as a human, but as a spiritual teacher, it was like this constant battle between humanity and spirituality. I couldn't just say, okay, this is a very spiritual thing. I get it. It's not going to affect me. And I know what's going on. I understand. I couldn't do that because that wasn't the truth. And so what I'm saying to people is, look, I get it. I know what you're going through, and it's okay. And we'll work through this together if they come to me for help. And the one thing that we're going to do as part of that journey is to learn how to love and accept yourself. Because if you don't accept yourself as you sit right now, even with all the warts and the perceived flaws and everything that you dislike about yourself, the train's going to stop for a little while till you figure that out. And you had spoken to me, and I would love for you to share this with everybody because
Sure.
it's very important. You'd spoken to me about part of your journey and the realization about that.
Yeah. And listeners who've been listening for a while, a little bit about, or well, probably way more than a little bit about kind of what my journey's been the last few years, disconnecting from my mom and taking space and time away to really focus on myself, which really has been the first time in my life where I've ever lived alone, completely alone. And the first time I'd ever put myself really first, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. But before I get to that, I want to state this journey that you go on, because everybody experiences pain. I mean, that's just part of being human. But some of this, the journey to feeling good and the journey to these awakenings and stuff come through unbelievable pain and trauma. And even though you get these amazing things, I just thought, about this today, even though you get these gifts from this trauma that you've been through, if you can get to a place where you can see the gift out of it, you still have to process the actual trauma of the event that brought you to a better place. And that's sort of the road that I'm on now is, okay, I'm so glad that this horrible experience happened that I literally just went through. I'm so glad how I handled it. It brought healing to other things in my life. And then I got walloped this weekend with the trauma, the physical trauma of the experience that happened. And what's nice is to know, oh, okay, that's why I'm feeling weepy and I'm not feeling so hot and I needed extra sleep and whatever, because I really hadn't processed the trauma of what I experienced. So anyway, that's a part of the journey as well. So what I realized is I had a situation where it's about as desperate as you could be. I was not in the country. I was with a violently abusive or emotionally abusive person that I didn't realize was that way. And I didn't know how the heck I was going to get home. And it brought about, I could have handled the situation in a multitude of different ways. And I know how I would have handled it when I was younger. I would have felt trapped. I would have tried to appease the person. And how easy has anyone ever had appeasing a mean drunk? And I mean a long time hard drinker, when they go on their mean drunk rampages and then 5 minutes later act like they've done nothing wrong. Like there's no healthy way.
It's like riding a tilt-a-whirl.
But I know me. I would have tried to, I've handled worse. I don't know, it was pretty bad. But anyway, I would have figured out a way to, I would have just felt trapped. And at my age now and where I'm at now with how I feel about myself, it took me, I guess maybe 16 hours of being in that situation before I went, I'm out of here. I'm leaving, not knowing how the heck I was going to get back into the United States. And, just not knowing what the heck I was going to do. But I'm proud of myself that I never lost my temper, never said anything that I would regret later. I didn't let my emotions take over as this person was doing in such an emotionally violent way. And I handled it with dignity, class, and grace, and left. And guess what?
Yes.
My butt got home.
Yes, it did. You were a champ for sure. For sure. Absolutely.
And I didn't do the typical, how did you get yourself into this situation? How did you see what red flags were you missing? And there were plenty, because there always are. And talking to other people that have dealt with this person too, saying, oh, I could have told you. And I'm like, yeah, well, why didn't you? I mean, all that stuff that people like to tell you later.
Yeah.
But
right.
The thing that I learned in that was some really great healing. A healing came about with my mother out of it. I looked at it. Sorry, I'm giving a longer explanation than we had discussed, Martha.
No, please.
I feel like it's an important thing. It made me think of my mom, because she's been that emotionally violent, but she's not a drunk. Never has been. So I was able to put my relationship and the problems that I've had with her into a different perspective. Now, while I'm not saying it's okay for anyone to behave in that way to another person, regardless if they're your mom or not, I could see why that happens with a mother or a father or whatever, because there's context is there. You have this long relationship with someone, and there's all the family stuff, and there's a family history of abusive behavior, and it goes from family to family to family. And and so when my mother has behaved that way, and it made sense. I went, okay, I wasn't making an excuse for it, but I could go, okay, and I can not continue a family pattern of just cutting family members out, because I don't want to do that. Like had been done by plenty of other women in our family. Where you just don't speak to your parent ever again. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. That doesn't make me better. My mom did what she felt she could do at the time that she did it. And that was her path. And my path is different, but it doesn't, make it better. It just is different. So anyway, so we had a healing out of this situation. And it also helped me to see this other person who I'm not related to. I barely know. I met once in person for a very short period, and go, okay, that situation is not okay. I see no excuse. There's no family history of conflict, nothing. That was just completely wrong in every possible way. So in that way, it helped me put some things into context, not take something on as my fault, which in no way was my fault, and then come home and process what had happened, and deal with it, and so on. And I had a week after it happened, I had a moment where a Sunday where all day that day I was really I wasn't ripping myself apart, but I was doing a moral inventory of myself. And I was very, yeah, it was
in other words, you were walking through a minefield.
Yeah, I was walking through a minefield. I started early in the morning, and I did it all day long, but it was different from every other time I've done something like that. And the difference was that this person that I'm taking a moral inventory of is someone that I really love and respect, that being me. And I've never felt that way about myself before. So every other time that I would take a moral inventory, I felt a tremendous amount of shame. And like I was a horrible person that didn't deserve to live, and blah, 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 blah. And it made me think of AA and why Alcoholics Anonymous, has you do one of the 12 steps. I don't know which step, because I'm not in AA, but one where you take that kind of a moral inventory, and then you apologize to all the people you feel you've hurt. And I have done AA type groups like Codependence Anonymous and stuff. And I have done that kind of thing in the past for the things I've done. But it was awesome to sit through a whole Sunday and take that kind of an inventory and really go, yeah, these are ways in which I've projected on people. These are ways that I've done these things that that I do feel badly about. And how many of those people should I apologize to? Not because they don't deserve an apology, but sometimes it's like, okay, well, that happened so long ago. Like, they probably don't even remember. Like, what do I feel important? And most of them I had, which was good. And I just was able to do it without this, tremendous inability to process it as we should. It made me think of, why did this happen with this person? Obviously, a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with me as to why she behaved this way with me. Does it to her own daughter, had done it to people on another trip that I was told in glee about. And I was sitting mortified listening to the glee at verbally assaulting someone on another trip. And that was, just done to me. But what I thought about was, I triggered this person's shame before I ever got on the plane, because I was mortified at them talking about how they had done this to someone else. And that was another stamp of, there's nothing you could have done. You triggered someone's shame just because of who you are. That's their journey. Right. And it's not my shame to carry.
Now, let me ask you a question. If this had happened a year ago, would that, what you just said, would that have been your conclusion, or would you have been blaming yourself?
I would have blamed myself.
So what happened in between then and now that allowed you to escape that bondage of self-blame? I think this is important, because there's obviously a shift in your thinking and your belief system regarding yourself and your place in the world and in the cosmos that has allowed you to release yourself from that bondage.
Right.
And I would love to know if you can, maybe it's a big question.
No,
but,
I can. I figured out how to articulate it when you and I were on the phone just the other day. But yeah, what I would have a year ago, even just a year ago, I would have taken on a tremendous amount of blame for it, as I do as I have in the past, always done. And this time I dipped into that just to examine the situation, but I really didn't breathe that in, not even the projections of this other person onto me as their excuse for why they were being so horrible. Didn't let that seep in. So what I figured out was, oh my gosh, I took a tremendous journey of my own towards really proving to myself that I value myself enough that I would practice radical self-care. And that those terms get thrown around out there, and I always want to roll my eyes at them, but I think it's just because there aren't really words yet to describe it well enough. It's when everyone should practice it. And some people are born where they're taught how to do it. I wasn't, and my mother was not. And so I learned to do it as an adult by doing many, many, many things over the course of my lifetime. One of them being, working with Martha, being a client of Martha's. And when I left a couple years ago and moved into my own place, there were times that came up along that journey where the sky was falling. My ex-husband was in the hospital. My mom was in the hospital at some point. My dogs, I was told, were going to be put into a foster program, or given to an adoption agency. I mean, just all these chicken littles. The sky is falling, and I didn't go rescue. I didn't abandon my post at taking care of myself. I went, okay, okay, well then the sky will fall. My dogs will have to be adopted. My ex-husband will have to be in the hospital by himself. My mom's going to have that, what, I did not abandon the post of myself. And that
Right.
doing that act and really proving how much I really do care about myself and learning how to care about myself gave me such a grounded sense of self-worth and self-value and living at the core of myself instead of living through other people or through the actions that you do, all that stuff. It was like, that was when I really realized how much I had taking this time away was me filling my own cup, filling with my own deeds and actions towards myself, to where something can happen, because I don't care how enlightened you are. Shit happens in your life that's tough and makes you question,
Yes, it does.
who am I? What am I? It doesn't matter whether you're a gazillionaire
That's
or you're
right.
not, or like that's just part of this journey. But if you don't have this core inside of yourself where you know that you're there for you, you're not going to come out of those situations as unscathed, as capable of turning it into a positive. I credit my doing that with me being able to go, 8 hours of this person being awake was all it took me to go, I'm out, bye, we're not friends, and
Yeah.
I'm going home. I mean, I credit all my ability to do that. And and not just that, but also to take that situation and have a healing with my mother and have other great healings happen. My friends call it get out the popcorn time. Whenever I close a book on something that's, unhealthy, they're like, well, good stuff's coming. Kristin just closed a big.
Yeah.
So this situation could have happened in so many different ways, but my ability to squeeze the good out of it, get through it, everything has changed because of the time that I take for myself, which proves to me how I feel about myself, which is good.
And what I'm hearing also in all of this is that you abandoned the ship of behavior that says I need to gain my sense of self-worth based on what other people are telling me I should feel about myself. And trusting yourself enough and being brave enough to say, you know what, you think what you want to think. I choose to think about myself differently. So take your opinion over there. God bless you. Have a good life. And then be able to walk away and not go, oh my God, what is wrong with me?
Right.
I need to go examine all of my faults yet again. That is an incredibly brave thing to do, because we, I think, are trained, historically, to see ourselves as being inherently faulty. And that the only way to come to a place of wholeness inside of yourself is to listen to what other people tell you you should be looking at, instead of going, wait a minute, okay, wait, if I really am this divine being in a body, why am I such a piece of garbage?
Right. And
really, I mean,
And I think sometimes you're served them up in ways that you can see them. But I guess where I was at was I needed something to be so utterly ridiculous. For me to go, okay, there's just no way that you can take that behavior and assign it to yourself as you somehow deserved it. And I don't mean this to put down anyone that struggles with any kind of addiction, but it was like, okay, a violent, mean drunk screaming how awful you are to you when they've been tanking it up all day long is not the time for you to listen to anything they have to say to you about you.
Right.
It's like someone sitting with a heroin needle sticking out of their arm telling you that you're a horrible person. You just don't.
Right.
It's like it needed to be that ridiculous for me to go, oh my, okay, yeah. The thing that I've always done
Yeah.
for other people, that ability to just cut something off and go, you know what? No, you should, where they've come to me in those situations, and my ability to zero in and go, you need to see this as reality. That thing that I've done so many years for other people, I was able to turn it around and be that same good friend to myself and go, you are not even allowed to digest anything that this person had to say. And feel bad for them because their journey is rough, but you're not digesting one little smidge of it. Even if something sounded even remotely true in one tiny bit of a sentence, you are not going to take that on because of the situation. And that was really good.
Well, you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like what a loving mother would say to her daughter.
Yes.
No, that person is bullying you and is telling you nothing but lies, and I will not stand here and allow you to soak that all in and have that be part of your personal belief system. Absolutely not. You are this, 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 and this. None of those things that other that's what a loving mother would say to her child.
Exactly.
So you were doing that for yourself, and you had the ability to do that. What a wonderful breakthrough.
And I guess
because
listeners,
I'll tell you, I just want to say this about being a loving mother. I can tell you honestly that if anybody went up to either one of my children, even though one of them is gone right now, I'm still his mother, and tried to treat him or her the way that woman treated you, they would be coming up against me. And I would say, all right, you go over there. You are a mess. Go away. And then I would turn to my child and say, she's a liar. She's talking about herself. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And you were being that wonderful, loving, kind parent to yourself. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it was great. And it was great to, to have a great talk with my mom, start that journey towards healing again. And my mom do the things that, that when she could stand up for me, when she was able to do that, to remember, because she was like, give me your phone number. I'm going to gouge your eyeballs out. I'm flying where you are now. And I was like, you know what?
Right.
I appreciate that. I really do. And I've got this. So thank you for the support, but I so have this. It was also nice to be in that place. And, it's a beautiful thing. And the reason why this is so important, I think, listeners, for Martha and I to be talking about it is because we weren't raised in environments where we were taught how to care for ourselves. It's like like a feral wolf out in the woods, and you just figure it out as you go along. So when you have the childhoods that we have had, which were very, very traumatic, and you figure this out in adult, you're really at this horrible disadvantage around other people who did have that kind of a childhood, or at least some of that kind of a childhood, because they know how to care for themselves, and they don't understand why you sort of lag behind, quote unquote, other people, why you've struggled with depression, or why you've struggled with things that the way that you have. Well, that's how important that stuff is. That's what we're supposed to do as parents, and we weren't taught it. And so we just sort of schlepped through life figuring it out, kind of on our own, like most, people do in different ways. But it becomes this profound thing of awareness when someone else could look at that situation that I was in and go, I would have left in the first 2 hours. I wouldn't tolerate that kind of crap. It's like, well, okay, takes me a little longer.
But you know what? Why should that even be an issue? Why should that even be an issue? Why didn't you leave right away? What's wrong with you? Didn't you see that woman was a little on the crazy side? That, again, pointing out something that you were doing, quote unquote, wrong.
Right.
Let me tell you something. The people that I look at in this life as being heroes, okay, Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Yay, Neil Armstrong. Okay. But the people that I consider to be heroes are the ones who have learned these things that we're talking about the hard way. You know, nobody taught you how to do this. You figured it out yourself. You
I mean, a lot of
crawled
people
on your
taught
hands
me.
and knees.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I taught, yes, I get, you're right. You're right. I did, because I did it through making myself go to therapy, go to see you, go to do all the stuff I've done, go. Yeah. It's what the care you put into yourself as you get older, and it's, yeah. So yeah, you learn it just by scraping through. And,
But these are the people, people like you who have turned this kind of learning into a full body experience, full spiritual experience, who have felt the pain of it, who have felt the pain of healing and transformation. These are the people that I will listen to, because they've been through it. And they can tell me, what the dark underbelly of this whole situation looks like. And here's how I managed it. Here's how I did it. I'll share that with you, and, maybe help you walk through it if that's okay. I will listen to these people rather than, the people with the PhD at the end of their name. No offense to any of you. You're all wonderful. But if it's just coming through book learning, I don't want to hear about it. I want to see the people with the bloody knees.
The people that bleed.
Because they're the ones who know.
Yeah.
And so those are my heroes, the ones who go through that dark night of the soul and say, no, there's something better on the other side of this. I know there is, and I'm just going to keep going.
Right.
So, I will say to someone like you, you are one of my heroes, because you walked into I know what you went through while you were there. I know what you went through.
Yeah.
And
a bus to crazy town.
You went through it like a champ. And I had said, when you were going through that, I wanted to get on a plane and come over there and help you.
Yep.
But then I thought, what am I doing? She's got this. It's okay. She'll be all right. And I just sat there and said, okay, and you did.
Yeah.
And that is somebody that I'm going to listen to.
Same here. That's why, like, if someone, maybe through those experiences or whatever, you start seeing people with more dimension also, and what they're going through, and you just stop with, oh wow, so-and-so, that's, somehow their education or their wealth or their celebrity or whatever shines a light on you, or rubs off on you because you happen to know them, and somebody finds out about it, and so they think you're better because you know that person who's a celebrity or whatever. And it's made me just really be like, I had somebody get all excited about, I slipped and I said someone that I know, and they got all excited about it and wanted to ask me more questions. And I said, I don't want to, they're just a normal person. They have a lot of problems and a lot of flaws. They're actually one of the people that would want you to never treat them like anything other than the mailbox delivery person, or the, whatever, because that's right. I wouldn't be that close of friends with someone who behaved that way anyway. So it's just interesting. And I think sometimes people have, wanted me in their life because they have put some sort of projection on who it is they think I am, or they see the company that I have, or whatever it is. And it's all, in degrees. And so when I'm not behaving in the manner in which is going to best highlight how they're my friend, you hear about it, and you hear about it.
Yes, you do.
In not great ways. And you kind of look at them like, I'm just being me. You've put a bunch of expectations on me that aren't fair and certainly aren't real. And I didn't sign up for those.
Right.
So,
and that brings us back to my original point about putting people on a pedestal, and that almost everybody has the potential to be a healer in a big way or a small way. And, when you put, let's say, Deepak Chopra next to the mail lady, you're inclined to think, oh, I'd rather spend more time with Deepak. He's got the inside skinny on all the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When that mail lady perhaps, said, hey, I think you're a nice lady. You're always very kind to me. Thank you. And I hope everything is going well for you. And all you needed to hear was that, and it maybe brought you back from the brink of something. That woman's a healer too. So I don't care if you're famous or you're not famous, you have the potential to be a healer.
Right.
And you have the potential to heal yourself. It's just a matter of finding it. And listening to, the shows that you put out on the network, really is teaching people that they can be their own healer. And all I do is help point people in that direction. And that's what it's all about. I don't care what your name is. I don't care if you are a big shot. What is a big shot anyway? I don't care how many books you've sold or how many movies, whatever. I don't care about that. All I care about is who are you? Do you know who you are? And are you helping other people? That's it.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's a great thing. It really is a great thing to be able to see yourself from that perspective.
And I'll say, and we'll have to do it on, of course, we'll keep having further on this conversation, but I have to say, I actually feel pain more deeply, heartache more deeply now than I did before, because I'm able to feel it more deeply, because I'm not wrapped in so much shame and hatred of myself.
Yeah.
That the stuff, that does come up, that comes up for everybody. Just because you get through one challenge doesn't mean you're not going to be hit with yet another.
Yeah.
I feel it a lot. It hurts more deeply.
Yes,
and
it does.
It's like I'm having to relearn a whole new way of handling my pain and being and honoring it, and also joy and all those things too, because there's more room now for me to really feel things that I would have tried to avoid like hell before, and also things I couldn't feel as deeply because I was so wounded still. So
yes, that's right. Well, onward and upward, my friend. That's what I say.
Exactly. All right. Well, we will do another one. Listeners, we just come up with these kind of as we're going through our stuff in life, and we'll have a nugget of information come through and go, that's what we need to focus on the next show.
Sounds good. I'm always here.
Awesome. All right, listeners, thank you for tuning in to The Healing Room with Martha Juchnowski on Mental Health News Radio. I know, no one likes commercials, but seriously, folks, without the help from these organizations, we could not stay on the air. Please give a shout out to zencharts.com. If you're a mental health or addiction treatment center, you'll want to use their EHR. It's gorgeous, and they're just good people. And also MyGenetics, MyGenetx.com, because knowing your genetic code empowers your mental health treatment. And lastly, CopeNotes.com. We love getting positive messages right to our phones every day from Johnny Crowder. He's the lead singer of Prison, a heavy metal band sharing their music about suicide prevention, addiction recovery, and mental health. See, that was painless. Support them as they support us. Back to the show.
Sometimes I'm passive aggressive, but never without good intentions. I heat up and act on my emotions.
Thanks so much for listening to Mental Health News Radio. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, and hundreds of other podcast apps, or you can visit our website at mentalhealthnewsradio.com. If you have a question or would like to be a guest, become a podcaster on our network, or join the amazing organizations that help keep us on the air, please email us at info@mhnrnetwork.com. Get ready for that special goodbye from our resident therapy dog, Miles, and a special thanks to Emily Sohn for letting us use her incredible song, Cordial, for our podcast music. Listen to the full song on SoundCloud at emily.sonne.
Don't be surprised when I don't hate on you. After all, we promised we'd be cordial. Sometimes in you I can fight it, but I'm opposing.
Good boy.